Okay, it's time for me to get vulnerable and real as a human being with you, as well as a professional realtor. I asked on Facebook a little while ago, I put out hey, I want to do something different on my channel, and I'd love to hear what people want to hear about. What's a video that you would love to watch? You would likely be interested in. So one of the responses I received, which I appreciate, was, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made as a realtor? So I consider myself to be a very authentic person. I'm all about genuineness and authenticity, and part of authenticity is being real about our stuff. That's the great thing about us and the not so great things about us. So I'm going to be vulnerable with you today, be very real, very personal about things that I've done interpersonally and in communication, things that I've done as a realtor I'm not proud of, and ways that I've not served people well. So let's get into it, because you don't know what you don't know about me. So I'm going to share it with you today. I connect with people just like you every day to help them discover where to live and invest in real estate and sell property for top dollar when the time is just right. My name is Leif Jacobson. I'm an ex-cop turned realtor, also known as Safe Leif. If you're new to this channel, subscribe so you're first to learn about Colorado real estate. I'm excited you're here. My contact information is below, and I'm excited to hear from you and communicate with you. Shoot me a text, call, or email after this video. I'd love to hear from you, or book a calendar event and I will reach out to you. Whatever works best for you, and I'm looking forward to it. So let's get into it. Today we're talking about the 10 mistakes I've made as a realtor personally that I'm not proud of, in ways that I'm always learning and growing. And I pride myself on being a person who is a learner and a grower and humble enough to say I've done and do things that don't serve people very well. So I'm going to be real with you about those today. The first thing on the list is assuming that people know something that they don't know. It's easy, I think, in every industry, especially as a realtor. People watch HGTV and they say, wow, in one episode, everything was all taken care of. Like, that was simple. I'm gonna go be a realtor. I'll make millions of dollars. There's actually a lot to it. There's a huge number of components, huge number of moving parts, lots of entities that are involved that we can't control. And so it's part of our job as a broker to put all those together and bring those together into deals that seamlessly and smoothly close. We can't control that all the time, because we can't control all the parts. But I sometimes assume that people know what I know, or I do this full time. This is my job, and all the acronyms and terminology and components from lending to title and all the nuances of real estate and properties. And it's easy to assume that people know what they don't know. So sometimes I'll use language or terminology or acronyms that people aren't familiar with. Sometimes they'll be nice enough to tell me, like, hey, what does that mean? Or I didn't understand that. Or will you cover that again? And I'm grateful when people do. Other times they're embarrassed or they don't say that, and I'll just keep going, not realizing that I've used terminology or speaking in phrases or speaking with concepts that they're not familiar with. So I just like on these videos, I talk fast when I get excited, and I'm passionate about this. And so sometimes I need to slow myself down, even slow down how fast I talk, and slow my tone to realize, okay, maybe this is new to them, even though I deal with it every day in real estate flavor stuff, but not everybody does. So that's one thing I can definitely do better, is to make sure and ask great questions to make sure that people understand where I'm going, what I'm talking about, to tee up expectations and talk about concepts kind of as they come, and not assume that people know about concepts before I start addressing them. That's something I could definitely do better. The second thing I could do a better job of, for sure, is not over communicating sometimes. A lot of realtors are known for, they sign you up and they do the sales process, and all of a sudden you hire a realtor and then it's crickets and you're wondering what's going on. I'm actually not that guy. I can be on the antithesis on the other side. I'm a details guy. I'm extremely intentional and purposeful. I'm a little bit of a wordsmith. I'm very careful about what I say and what I don't say. I'm intentional about reaching out with people and being in touch and communicating regularly. And sometimes that can be a little much, to be totally honest with you. I'm a details guy. I'm super proactive in that, and sometimes it's too much information. Sometimes less is more. Again, I'm an excitable, passionate personality, and sometimes it can give people too much information or over communicate. in a way that's not helpful. So again, I'll be real with my stuff. That's definitely one way to do a better job of setting expectations and asking what people need. I want to be tremendous at asking really good questions and meeting people where they're at and catering to where they are. I think I'm super connective and genuine and kind and tender with people. I see them, I hear them, and I'm intentional about getting to know them personally. I'm not presumptuous about priorities or what's important to them or what they're trying to accomplish or their goals. Everyone's trying to accomplish different stuff. But sometimes I can over communicate things, and sometimes I need to sit back, slow myself down, listen even better, even though I'm trying to be a good listener all the time, and do a better job with not over communicating some things. So that's the second thing. The third mistake I've made is not asking enough questions, which I kind of alluded to in the last one. Sometimes, again, I want to be a fabulous question asker. I want to be great at inquiring. I want to ask questions that aren't yes or no answers, black and white. I want to ask, the who, what, why, when, where, how, questions that can't be answered with a yes or no. And I want to ask really good questions to draw people out. So I'm trying not to be a presumptuous person and assume that I know where people are coming from, because I don't. And I'm the first to admit that. But I want to be intentional about asking great questions to draw people out and understand and learn. With a trifecta in life, all humans in every culture, everywhere on the world, my belief is we need to feel seen, heard, and understood. There's no question in my mind. That's how we're built. That's how we're designed as humans in relationship. And that's what I want to give and do with my clients. But sometimes I don't ask enough questions. Even I think I do. I can always double that in the number of questions that I ask, so I can really get to know people on a deep level. And sometimes when you ask people questions, they'll give you answers. They're not trying to be shallow or not trying to answer disingenuinely, but they'll give you an answer, and even they don't know. Even I do this. I don't know the root of my stuff or the root of what my need is, or what I'm really feeling, or what my deepest need is. So answering good questions to get down to what people actually need, what they're looking for, what the priorities are. It might be a first-time homeowner that has never owned a home before. They've only rented, and they don't know a lot of nuances and things because they haven't owned a house for their family before or for themselves. And so asking better questions, drawing them out, helping them get down to their priorities and their needs will help me then understand what those are, so we both can understand what the priorities, needs, and goals are in order to then find all of that. The goal is in order to find a fabulous property for them, just the right property in just the right location with just the right amount of square footage and number of bedrooms and square footage of the lot and location and orientation, lot size and proximity, age of the house and all those things. So that is definitely something I can work on a little more. The fourth thing I've failed to do from time to time is asking clients how they prefer to be communicated with. We communicate in all sorts of ways these days, text, email, phone call, of course, audio message. I send video messages now. I'm pretty expressive, so I love sending video messages. I'm a face-to-face connector guy, but not everybody appreciates being communicated with in various ways. And I want to meet people where they're at and do what they need in a way that they need it. And so that's something I can do a better job of for sure, is asking people how they prefer to be communicated with. Maybe somebody can't stand phone calls and they don't want to be bothered with a phone call. I get that. I'm that way sometimes. And they'd rather receive an email or a quick text. Text is so common in communication these days. And so asking people how they want to be communicated with, as simple as that sounds, people have noted with me very recently, clients have said, hey, I really appreciate that you asked me how you want to hear from you. So that's definitely something I'm working on as well. A fifth way that I've failed as a realtor is not saying no to a client or turning a client down who wants to hire me when they are not a good fit for me. And I often smell that or know that up front, which doesn't mean they're bad or doing anything wrong. Not all of us. This is a relationship business for me. I'm all about being in genuine relationship with every client and communicating authentically with them. And not everybody meshes. Not everybody's going to like me, and that's okay. And I'm not going to like to work with everybody, and that's okay as well. So I'm always honorable and respectful in that. But I think I've taken on clients before when I knew something was a little sideways sideways, or I didn't think it was going to be a great fit. And I should have been quicker to say, you know, this may not be the best fit. I may not be the best realtor to serve you in your circumstance with your needs, how you roll, what you need in communication, or what your priorities are in this deal. And so I wish I would have been quicker at times to communicate differently and more upfront to say, I may not be the best realtor to serve you in this situation. A sixth way that I've communicated with people that's not always helpful is to be too honest with them or too upfront when they're not quite ready or in a place where they can hear some hard truth. Sometimes I need to be the bearer of bad news. Sometimes it's on the mortgage side, as far as somebody maybe not qualifying for a loan or have their credit scores in a certain place that doesn't qualify for the property they want, or they've received news or we have news for them that they're not going to be able to purchase a property in the area where they really want to be, or the school district where they really want to put their children. Nobody likes being in that position. I can't stand being that guy, but sometimes it's my job to give people news. And I'm an ex-cop, I'm a retired police officer, I'm very straight up and very straightforward. Again, always respectful and always want to be careful and tactful with people. But sometimes I can give them hard truth a little bit too upfront, and I want to be super sensitive and tender with that and be even more tactful in my timing of giving people certain news. So sometimes, you know, I can give people something that they're not quite ready to hear, or they're still experiencing some pain with, and I can be a little too upfront with something like that. So again, just being vulnerable with my stuff, that's something that I'm working on in myself, is to be very careful with timing and very sensitive to that and have just the right timing in sharing just the right amount of information, not too much and not too little, when somebody needs to hear it. So being honest, but tactful and gentle and tender with them. The seventh mistake I've made as a realtor, and I've done this a number of times over the years, is to take or accept a listing as far as selling a property and selling a house for a client when they're not hugely motivated to sell it. And they don't need to be, that's their prerogative. But when someone is not motivated to sell it, they might be asking way over price for the house. I mean, way over what it's worth. And they're not in a reasonable frame as far as what they're asking for the house, so it's not likely to sell. I'm very careful with people and honorable with people, with clients, in saying, I'm not the boss. You know, you are the king, you're the queen of your property. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but you're hiring me in part for my professional opinion as far as what your property is worth, and it is in my best interest and your best interest, and it's my fiduciary duty to get you top dollar for your property. There's no question. I'm paid by commission. I'm explicitly charged with getting you as much money as we possibly can for your property. But when someone is unreasonably high and it's not likely to sell, it's not appropriate for me to take listings that are just going to sit there, and it's not helpful for the property. It's not honoring to the seller to just have their house sitting there, and I'm expending a huge amount of resources when I list a property. I'm not just slapping property on the MLS. You know, we're doing, drone footage, photos. My wife and I do staging of houses for clients at no charge to the client. That's all on us. So we're spending hundreds and thousands of dollars marketing property, 90 different websites in addition to the MLS, and video tours and Facebook marketing and various things that we're doing. So I'm, respectfully, I'm expending a lot of resources and money myself as far as marketing property. So it's not honoring to me either when we spend a lot of resources and time and money marketing a property only to have it sit there. So once in a while, doesn't happen very often, but once in a while, someone will have a very, very high expectation of what they think they can get for the property that's more than the market can bear. So the market determines what property's worth. I can feel like it's worth something. You can feel like your house is worth something all day long, but unfortunately, there's a little bit of hard truth right there. Doesn't come down to what you or I feel like the property is worth. It comes down to, in the macro sense, it comes down to how much the market is willing to bear. Supply and demand determines how much someone is willing to pay for a house and or a property, whether we could be talking about vacant land as well. So the market determines where the threshold for where properties are going to sell, and then I can certainly influence within 1, 2, 3, 4% for sure by my communication, my negotiation, and how I relate with the other agents, another buyer's agent that's coming to bring a buyer for the property. How I communicate and negotiate with them absolutely determines several percentage points typically for what we get for the house. So I can get you more money for a listing than some other realtors can by how I negotiate and communicate and go for the win-win. I'm not a win-lose guy. I always want everybody to get their needs met on both sides of a transaction. I go for the win-win every time, not the win-lose ever, if possible. So all that is to say, I take listings where I know we can be successful. It's explicitly my duty and my job as a realtor, according to state law, to get sellers top dollar for property. And of course I want to do that. But if they're unreasonably high or exorbitantly high, it's my responsibility to say, maybe we won't list this property at this time because it's not likely to sell and it doesn't do you any favors to just have the property sit there. The eighth thing I've done that doesn't serve clients very well on the buyer side, and a lot of newer agents do this. I did this when I was a newer agent as well, so I'll confess that, is going shopping with clients who are not fully pre-approved for a mortgage loan. Most people are not paying cash for a property. Some people are, and that's great. But most people, especially newer buyers or first, second, third home buyers, are often selling a property and putting money down, but they're not fully paying cash for a property. So getting pre-approved is a vital move up front because, for one thing, in order to offer on a property, that's one thing that's got to go right across the desk with that offer is a pre-approval letter. Because a seller of property is wanting to know, like, it's great if you come across with an offer that sounds really cool and the terms are good and the price is great, but how do they know if you're qualified if you don't necessarily have the cash or the ability to borrow the cash in order to close on the purchase of their property? So one of the first things they need is the pre-approval letter. And if you go shopping without a pre-approval letter, people get excited, and I get it. I'm excited as well. I'm in this because I love looking at houses. I love looking at properties. Buying and selling is what I do, and it's my passion, but it doesn't do anybody any favors to shop without a pre-approval letter in hand because we don't know, for one thing, what we're shopping for. There's lots of components that go into. I'm not a lender, and so I won't speak to that. I stay in my lane as a realtor, but I'm very familiar with the lending process and debt to income ratios and credit scores and all the components, many of the components that go into qualifying for a loan. So people can look at the credit score and they can look at their DTI and say, okay, I think we'll qualify for here. And that's great. I think you will as well. But we need to go and talk to a lender, of which I have tremendous resources. I connect with wholehearted and fabulous high integrity lenders who don't do smoke and mirrors. They're also very upfront and they do business with the highest integrity like I do to help people understand where they are in qualifying for a property. So if we go shopping without a pre-approval letter in hand, we might be shopping for property that is not affordable and we don't know what we're shopping for unless we know what you're pre-approved for. And most people actually qualify for loans that are higher than they would want to spend. So that's the other thing is, figuring in your own budget is great, but we need to know both. We need to know your budget and your cash flow as well as what you qualify for in a loan in order to then whittle that down. Okay, it's great if you're qualified for a $720,000 loan, but you don't want to make a payment on a $720,000 or a $600,000 loan. A lot of people will want to shop for less. So it's a kind of a bifecta of those two, massaging both of those, but having that pre-approval letter in hand so we can come forward in good faith and not waste a seller's time in looking at the property when we don't know whether you're qualified to buy it. The ninth mistake I've made with past listings periodically here and there is not insisting. And I use the word insisting very carefully there because I'm not bossing anybody around. It's not my prerogative, but I'm being hired as the listing agent to sell a property for top dollar, partly for my professional opinion and expertise and prowess in what I do to help them understand what their property needs in order to sell for top dollar, and how we market it, how we prepare the property, how we depict the property and market the property and picture it to the public is a big deal, and how we present it to them. And then when they show up, all the nuances and all the little details are hugely important in their perceptions. It's not just about looking pretty, it's their perception on the inside, or what's going on underneath is they're determining how you've maintained the home, how you have, what kind of love and care you've put into it. Have you maintained the finishes? Have you maintained the systems? So when they walk into a property that is not clean or not taken care of very well, that really reflects and causes doubt in any particular buyer. Reference, yeah, if I'm seeing those window tracks are it's disgusting and nasty and black, if they're not taking care of that, what else are they not taking care of that I'm not noticing here? So it's really important perception-wise, especially reference cleaning. That's a huge component. And once in a while, somebody will be really tight on cash. They've already spent money and maybe refinishing or putting some new, finishes or updates on the house, and they're tight on cash. And I haven't always insisted that they do some fine tuning. I'm talking fine detail, deep cleaning, scrubbing in and around behind the toilets, underneath, vanities, window tracks, those fine detail things. I haven't always insisted that people do those things, and we usually regret it later because there's no question that the house doesn't market or present quite as well, and we can get less money for the property because it wasn't all the fit and finish, all those tiny little details weren't presented in the way that we just needed it there. So it's a fine line. I don't want to be boss guy. I'm not ordering anybody around, but it's important for their benefit and to honor them to say, hey, this really needs to be done. Here's why, and you're going to win in the end because you'll make way more money after doing these few things. The 10th and final thing that I've done that is not always helpful, and this will sound arrogant, but trust me from my heart, it's not coming from a place of arrogance. I've told you I'm very intentional and very specific in everything that I do and do not do. And I have high integrity. If I'm going to tell you something, I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to follow through. That's just integrity 101 for me. And I do that and I follow through. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm human like all of us. Once in a while, I'll miss a detail or two. But in general, I'm wholehearted in following through on what I say I'm going to do. And I assume when people tell me something that they're going to do it. So one mistake I've made is assuming too much that people are going to follow through on things that they tell me they're going to do when they don't always do that. So I need to be even more proactive, not assume that something's taken care of. Not everybody rolls with high integrity like that. So respectfully, it's important that I follow through, check in with people, issue reminders, and be following stuff all the way through and not just assuming that people are going to follow through because not everybody operates like I do as far as doing what they say. As simple as that sounds, it's not so common these days. So again, I'm fully human and I don't do that perfectly all the time, but that's the 10th nuance there. So anyway, those are the 10 things, me being super real and vulnerable with you about things that I have done in real estate that I'm not proud of and don't serve people well, but I'm humble and I'm owning that and I totally get it and I'm learning from those and improving on those all the time and absolutely bent on serving people wholeheartedly. So there you go. That's really me, regardless of whether you like it or not. That's just my real stuff and me being human with you. So thanks for taking the time to listen to the video. I appreciate this. Let me know in any comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Reference other videos like this or any other topic that you would like to hear. I love suggestions on what type of videos you'd like to hear from a realtor. So I'm not just like every other channel and every other realtor out there. I want to speak to topics that are meaningful to you and provide value to folks. So let me know, shoot me a text, call, or email, or comment on this video. Looking forward to hearing from you. See you next time.